unless you're one of the wild ones, you know who you are, we can all agree on one thing. South Africa needs less inequality. We all want people to earn enough to eat well, dress decently, have a roof over their heads, and even afford an occasional weekend braai without checking their bank account in fear. But here's where things get tricky. We don't all agree on how to get there. Some say the root of inequality lies in land dispossession during colonization and apartheid. Their solution, nationalize all the land. Some even say nationalize everything. They actually might be the same people. But anyway, sounds simple enough, right? Except history shows that it is not that simple. We have seen it here in South Africa and we've seen it in Zimbabwe.
The ANC Lekgotla reaffirmed its position that a comprehensive land reform program that enables equitable access to land will unlock economic growth by bringing more land in South Africa to full use and enable the productive participation of millions more South Africans in the economy. Accordingly, the ANC will, through the parliamentary process, finalize a proposed amendment to the Constitution that outlines more clearly the conditions under which expropriation of land without compensation can be effected.
Despite all the evidence, the ANC still swears by this approach. Expropriation, BEE, playing a high-stakes game of Robin Hood government edition. Take from Peter and give to Pindi. But has it worked? The numbers say otherwise. So what is the answer? How do we close the horrifying wealth gap in South Africa? Let's hear what one of the clever blacks has to say.
We got our inequality in South Africa, if I can put it, by creating artificial scarcity of skills, of skilled people, of professionals, of artisans. That's why we have so much. That's what's at the bottom of the inequality of South Africa. In the 19th century and in the 20th century, there was a creation of scarcity by restricting professions to whites only.
Sure.
So that created an artificial scarcity of skills and of professionals. So their salaries, those who created that artificial scarcity, their salaries shot through the roof because they were scarce. What has happened after democracy, this system has continued, the system of continued artificial scarcity. Our education system hasn't been changed to mass produce skilled people.
Apartheid did play a role in inequality, but not just through land grabs. The real damage, the systematic denial of educational and economic opportunities. Now, if you've been following this channel, you know I would love to own a massive piece of land one day. But I've said this before, simply owning the land alone doesn't make you rich. What matters far more than physical resources is knowing how to use them. And that, my friends, is the real reason we have such a massive wealth divide in South Africa. Some groups were handed not just resources, but also the knowledge to generate wealth, while others were deliberately left in the dark. But not all of them, right? Because we know that there were a few black people who knew how to generate wealth and they still managed to make wealth during the time of apartheid. And we also know that many white people still never managed to make any wealth, even when the odds were unfairly tipped in their favor.
Known as the great-grandfather of black business, Richard Maponya is best known for developing Maponya Mall in Soweto. From the age of 24, he developed a business empire despite the restrictions of apartheid. He worked hard to see Soweto Township develop economically.
A good leader understands the importance of suppressing the culture that leads to the failure of a country. That leader encourages the behavior that leads to success and discourages the opposite behavior. We all know that in South Africa, most leaders do the opposite of that. The leaders are all about amapiano and celeb lifestyles. The ANC has spent decades telling us that they want black South Africans to succeed. They've thrown money at the problem, from the NYDA to various other funding programs. And yes, some people have made it through these programs, but many have not. Why? Because money without skills is like giving someone a car without teaching them how to drive. They are going to crash. South Korea faced massive inequality too, yet today it's an economic powerhouse. How did they pull it off?
When I was a student in the United Kingdom in the 1960s, the South Koreans came and recruited car engineers, automobile engineers, to go and teach them how to make cars. This was in the 1960s.
Wow.
And these guys, they were from a British company, famous British automobile company called Leyland. And it was floundering at the time. So they recruited engineers from British Leyland, took them to South Korea, and they trained them how to make cars. The last time I was in South Korea a few years ago, Korea was 6th in the world in the production of cars.
Absolutely.
And if you go out on the street today, you will come across a Korean-made car.
Yeah,
they make it themselves. But somebody else trained them. But they took the initiative to say, please come and help us, train us.
Sure.
We don't know how to do it. And today they know how to do it.
Now I ask, what is stopping us from doing the same? What is stopping the South African government from identifying which skills are most in demand for our economic development and start working with nations in the continent and even beyond who have mastered those skills? South Korea did not become a nation that manufactures and sells electronics, automobiles, ships, and steel across the world through expropriation, but they did it through initiative, association, training, upskilling, and innovation. Instead of playing this never-ending game of pass the parcel with wealth, where we take from one group to give to another, fueling more resentment in our nation, how about we just create more wealth? Instead of slicing up an already tiny cake, let's just bake more cakes. And how do we do that? Simple. Useful skills, reliable infrastructure, good education, and loads of experience. I think we can do this in 3 simple steps. Step 1 is to fix the curriculum. First things first, let's take a good hard look at what we're actually teaching children in school. Too often when you help your child with homework, you find yourself asking, why on earth are they even learning this? Instead of stuffing their books with trendy but very useless content, how about we go back to basics? Reading, communication, and most importantly, STEM. That is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I mean, take the fluff out of school. Let's focus on builders, engineers, scientists, doctors, accountants, and the likes. Let's stop this maths lit nonsense. Let's stop wasting our NSFAS money on social and political sciences. Let's stop focusing on our taxes on gender and religious studies in universities. NSFAS should be reserved for the brightest of the brightest, and it should be restricted to studies that are actually going to improve our nation and its economy. We cannot just have previously disadvantaged or poor as a criteria for getting NSFAS. I'm sorry, but no. We are not funding these people for themselves only. We fund them for the nation, for them to build our country and improve the quality of life for themselves and the people of this country.
We need skills IT people. We need skilled artificial intelligence people and all the rest of it. We need skilled media people like yourselves. But that requires a lot of development of human resources of the country. If you are number 132 in the World Human Capital Index, then you can't do any of those. You don't have the skills to do any of those things.
Like it or not, there are fields that build nations. There are subjects that create the infrastructure that we all rely on. Do you want proof? Look at any first world country and count how many engineers they produce each year compared to a third world country. That difference, that's the gap between rich and poor nations. Many like to claim that China has achieved its success due to communism, and if you're one of them, I suggest you listen to this.
If you look at the Asians, Asia mass produces skills people. That's why Asia is more equal. China every year produces 600,000 engineers. So there's no premium on being a skilled person. In South Africa, there's a huge premium because there are very few of you. Our education system suppresses the production of skilled people.
You see that? The more we have our experts working to build our country, the better the lives of our people become. If we have the right people building the right schools, the best students becoming teachers, and the best of us running government, it won't matter whether you're a billionaire or not. The quality of life will simply be the same. And when the quality of life becomes the same, the difference between a billionaire and a thousandaire becomes very, very superficial. The quality of education and healthcare becomes the same whether private or public. This is the equality I would like to see, and this is how I believe we can achieve it.
Check this out with STEM. You ready? Percentage of total graduates in STEM fields. China, 41%. Russia, 37%. Germany, 36%. Iran, 33%. India, 30%. France, 26%. Mexico, 26%. You know where we are? 20%. China's 2xing us. Not only do they have a bigger population, then imagine they're also 2xing the focus on STEM. How do you compete with them in the future? So that's real data. Competition, let's talk raw competition. Next one here, you ready? Top countries by number of STEM graduates. China, 3.57 million. India, 2.55. US, 820.
Change the curriculum and let it focus mainly on STEM. We can't keep allowing or even encouraging our children to study whatever they want when there is evidence that some subjects and modules simply yield better outcomes than others. Now, before you start sharpening your pitchforks, I am not saying that other subjects don't matter. But let's just be honest. Some studies are just more necessary than others when it comes to economic growth, infrastructure development, and maintenance. That's why we need a real connection between high schools, universities, and the private sector. Every year, we should be tracking which fields are overflowing with graduates and which ones are desperate for skilled professionals, and then we act accordingly. Universities shouldn't be enrolling thousands of students in degrees that will only lead to unemployment and frustration. That is not nice to see, guys. High schools should get the memo very early on so that students can pick their subjects in grade 9 and pick subjects that actually align with real-life career opportunities. And while we're at it, can we please retire mathematical literacy? I mean, let's be real. Getting 90% in math lit doesn't open up the doors that even a 50% in pure math does. We've seen it time and time again how Maths Lit has blocked young people from pursuing careers that could have served them better, that could have secured them better jobs and even higher salaries. It's time to stop setting kids up for failure, guys. Come on.
One thing about engineers, they don't have time to play with kids, okay? they don't have time to play with y'all. Every time they will come here and show you why school is important, why maths and science is important. Do you get what I mean? And the beauty of engineering is you can do so much with it, even if you are not working as an engineer. There is so many opportunities for people who are trained as engineers. That's why I absolutely love it. That's where it's at. That's where it's at.
Only engineering will pay a trainee. This is a mining trainee. And they said, I must tell you, you must stop undermining BTech. Okay? You must stop undermining BTech. Normal pay 43,662, travel assist 4.6, medical scheme for 2.9, standby allowance 4,000, overtime 1.4, overtime 1.5, total earnings 58,258. Guys, I said to you, the economy is doing wonderfully for engineers. The economy is doing wonderfully, and I was not lying. Go check out my video on YouTube now. Various engineering salaries. The economy is doing well for them. I must say, the economy is doing well.
Once we sort out the curriculum, let's move to step 2, which is get real about skills and experience. You know what apartheid actually got right? Apprenticeship. The government used to compensate private companies for hiring and training young people straight out of school. And honestly, I think that is a far better investment than BEE or affirmative action. Instead of just ticking diversity boxes, we'd be equipping young South Africans with real, practical skills that would help them climb the ranks in their careers or even start their own businesses with a real shot at success. Now to the last step, leverage BRICS for STEM. Now, if you're serious about improving our science, technology, engineering, and mathematics capabilities, why not use our BRICS connections? Brazil, Russia, China, and India are powerhouses when it comes to these fields. Instead of just having nice photos of BRICS summits, let's actually negotiate deals where these countries can train South Africa in skills that we lack. That would make BRICS worth more than just a political posturing tool. It would make it an investment in South Africa's future. At the end of the day, if we really want to close the inequality gap, we need to stop looking for quick fixes and actually build something sustainable using education, skills, and experience. That's the real formula in my view. So what is stopping us? I'd say what is stopping us is that there's no eagerness to learn. How did Japan do it? How did South Korea do it? How did China do it? How did Singapore do it? These are all issues that a proper desperate and poor country figures out and starts copying. You force your way into the big leagues and you do exactly what others did in order to get where they are. Oh, but not in South Africa. Here we simply say it's apartheid, colonialism, land dispossession. We are the most unequal society in the world. And then after saying all of that, we go back to dancing to amapiano, to drinking some alcohol and making babies. Guys, this has to stop. Seriously, it needs to stop. If you are serious about narrowing the inequality gap in this country, you heard what I said. You heard what Mbeki said. Now it is up to you to do your bit, and it is up to you to vote in a government that will prioritize quality education, skills, and training, as well as making use of our relationship with other nations in a way that will elevate our human capital.
Well, the one thing we have to do in South Africa is focus on our human capital. That is the one. The World Bank publishes something called the Human Capital Index. South Africa, this index covers 169 countries. Number 1 in the Human Capital Index, which is how you use your human resource and your people's skills. Number 1 is Singapore. Number 2 is Hong Kong. Number 3 is Japan. Number 4 is South Korea. South Africa is number 132
Sheesh.
in that index. So if we want to be part of the modern productive world, the modern economy, we have to address our human capital, our human resource capability.
You've heard it for yourself, right? Anyway, that's it for today. If you have them on your WhatsApp, please share this video with all the GNU members, and who knows, maybe we might have some of these suggestions implemented before 2029. To support our work, please join our membership or buy our t-shirt at citizenconcerned.co.za. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Katlego. This is Citizen Concerned. And until next time, beware of the comrades.